Let's face it, most street photographs today all look the same. High contrast black and white, reflections, a stranger walking away. Sound familiar? And all this is hurting our craft and making street photography boring. Hi, it's Peter here, and let's get right into the business. But first, of course, we have to define what does a soul mean in a photograph. It might not be that obvious what it means. A photograph has soul if it invokes emotions, has a story and personality, making it compelling, memorable, and uniquely alive for both the photographer and the viewer. And here lies the thing. It has to be both the photographer and both the viewer. If only resonates with the photographer or the photographer is only one that feels something, the photograph might not be good in broader sense. Of course, it might be good for you if you enjoy the photograph and like it. It's totally fine. Go for it. No problem. But we have to remember that if we want to impress, well, not impress, but make photographs that resonate with others, we have to think beyond the actual moment that we made the photograph, because that is usually the thing. We're all guilty of that, having a good feeling coming back from a photo walk or a trip or whatever, whenever we did some photographs. And it's a human thing. And no problem with that if we enjoy the photographs. That's good. Sometimes that happens to me, but I understand that this might not be a good one to show on my videos because it most likely doesn't resonate with others. But it can still be a very valuable and very memorable photograph for myself. And that's fine. Don't underestimate those photographs, even though I'm talking about photographs that will or should resonate with others, with having a soul and all that. And sometimes to understand a photograph or some photographer, we need to know more about the photographer. And one good thing, what I tend to do quite a bit, is reading biographies of different photographers to learn about their lives, learn about how they think and how they feel about their photography. It doesn't matter the genre, it all can help you despite what genre you like to photograph. It all gives us some clues about how photographers think. And one good book is called Lives of the Great Photographers. And it's a good book to start from because there are a couple of pages of each photographer, a few photographs, and then some stories about their lives. So that could introduce you to new photographers and then learn more about maybe the longer biographies or autobiographies, doesn't really matter. The main thing is to learn about the photographer. But I'm not saying that you have to always learn something about the life of a photographer. It helps to understand why he or she makes that type of work, because sometimes some photographers' work is just something that you don't understand. But learning about the photographer might help, and that might, make your knowledge of photography broader, and that will also boost up your own photography when you loosen up and learn stuff that you might not, understand, but you know what I mean. But let's get into the first one. Repetition and cliches. Yes, the thing is that we photograph, as I already said, the black and white contrast, reflections, people walking away, and all that type of stuff. Sometimes those images can be visually interesting, and they are cliches because they usually look good. But, making those same cliches that's been done like 100 years almost doesn't take you anywhere. I know we all are guilty of that. I do that every time I go to a photo walk. There will be a bunch of cliches, and sometimes they're just visually pleasing and I enjoy the images, and that's totally fine. But the problem, of course, is with cliches is that everything has been photographed already. Well, not all, but you know what I mean. It's so that it is really, really hard to find something new. And of course, when we're talking about something new and something that has not been done before, it's a little harsh to say that you shouldn't do that, because if the photographs comes from your own feelings, emotions, from background of your life and stuff, then it's unique. And that's also something that you should not avoid, is to start doing something. And if someone says that, okay, that's been done before, don't do it, then just continue. I think that's one way of making your own voice heard and your own voice inside the photographs. Because when you go out and photograph, you just keep on doing that. It will become your own thing, and it will go beyond the cliches. And that's also one fix to that. And another fix for it is to just trying to find something new, learn about photography, what's been done, and make your own angle to things that have been photographed many, many times. And that could be and unique compositions and unique perspectives. And of course, the perspective most likely is unique because it's your perspective or my perspective. And they're different because we've lived in a different part of the world, different lives and all that. That's, I've been talking about this quite a bit on my videos. But it is an important thing to understand. And the second thing that is killing the craft is the impact of social media. Since social media and the photo sharing sites like Instagram and Facebook and Flickr and whatnot has been popular, it has driven our aesthetics too much to be similar and towards the cliches that I was talking about earlier, because we tend to photograph for the likes. And there's nothing wrong if people like your photographs. But if your aim is to get a like in Instagram, I don't think that's very valuable. It's not your voice. You're kind of thinking of what others like, and that's usually a dead-end road. You won't get anywhere. And that's something that you have to start thinking about. And this is the fix to this, is start photographing the things you enjoy. Try to find your own voice. We talked about that in the first thing that is killing the craft already a little bit, but try to find your own voice and don't listen to, or maybe be wise and understand who you should listen to. Don't listen to everybody that gives you a a comment and nice work and all that kind of stuff. Or your loved ones, they will like your photographs, of course, and that's nice, and it's nothing wrong with that. But don't trust them or only trust them, because they're most likely not professionals in that, and not the general audience, because they have a connection to you, which is the same thing when you have a connection to your photographs. You might not understand if it's a good photograph or not. So get some feedback from professionals and some feedback from people that you trust in photography to tell you if photographs are good and if your work is compelling. Don't trust the social media, and don't go for the likes, and don't go for the same photographs deliberately that you see that get a lot of likes. What do you do with the likes? Well, yeah, it might feel good, but it's, nothing. You just have a false impression of your skills if you go for the likes, because usually very colorful, saturated, simple images get likes, but to get some image with the soul might not get that many likes. But it doesn't mean that it's a bad photograph. Most likely an image with the soul is a lot better photograph than a photograph that is just liked by an average Instagram user. And the next one is a really big thing that has affected street photography quite a bit. And photographers, well, they can't do much about it. And that's the ethical considerations and the challenges in public spaces. People are more aware of their privacy, and some don't like to be photographed in a public place, even though it is, in most parts of the world, totally fine to photograph people in public spaces. But of course, it makes it harder because people don't want them to be photographed in the public space, and they might, give you, don't photograph me, and then you shouldn't, of course. And then, of course, the publishing the photographs, that has also changed, because now you can publish it right away to Instagram, to other social media platforms, and people don't like that. They want to be, or not to be photographed in public places. They just want to be, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But that makes the photographs or the photograph we want to make a lot harder, because we can't do it like we used to do. 20 years ago, it was totally different. You could stick a camera to someone's face and they didn't really care that much. Now it's a lot more well, I wouldn't say dangerous in a way that they might attack you, but they might start abusing you with words and stuff like that. That has happened sometimes, but not very often to me, because I don't really like that style that much, because I try to respect the privacy of people out in the streets, even though I do photograph strangers and publish on my website and on my videos too. The way to avoid the confrontations and make is just to be more confident when photographing and practice that. And, just start photographing, maybe reflections and maybe through windows. And that's something, of course, it's a cliche, as I already said, and there are too many of those. But it's a good starting point. And then maybe starting photographing from the hip and stuff like that. And then there is a video about how to be invisible when photographing. And that's also something to learn, to photograph so that people don't realize that you're photographing them. And when you're out in the open, I think it's totally fine. It's just a approach where you want to approach the situation so that you don't affect what's happening. And the photograph or the stuff that you're photographing would happen even if you weren't there. I think that's how I try to approach the situation when I photograph. So I won't affect or interfere with anything that's happening. And that's one way of going or getting over the ethical dilemma that there is in street photography. But it is a big thing, and that I think the biggest thing at the moment that is affecting street photography and documenting the streets. But then let's go to the next one. The lack of emotional connection. And that's usually the problem also with the privacy that comes from that. Because if there is no emotional connection with you or with the viewer, it lacks something, the image. It might be a pretty image with no soul. And I'm not saying that every image should have soul, but I think a image that evokes emotions and makes us think, and there is some kind of a story built into our mind, that we kind of remember something similar happened, or we start wondering and asking questions, what's going on in the image. Those are more meaningful photographs, at least. That's what I think. But it's nothing wrong to have a visually pleasing image that you like to look at and makes you feel good. Because if you see a pretty image, it might make you feel good. And feeling good is also a feeling. We always think that it has to be something deep and sad and maybe, go deep down into our secret compartments in our memory. It doesn't have to be that. It can be a pretty image that makes you feel good. A feel-good image is totally fine. But of course, if we want to make a bigger impact, then, these more meaningful images that goes deeper into the minds of your viewer, and maybe even deeper in your own mind, those are usually better images. To fix this is just to observe around your surroundings and then photograph at the moment when there is some gestures, some interesting expression on the face, or something happens and there are connections between two people, or you can think why there is no connection between two people, and all that kinds of photographs are something to look for. So it's about the timing also. Try to make the photograph at the right time, where there is something happening inside the frame that is something that can evoke a feeling or boosts up the story in the viewer's mind. I think that's the fix to this. So you see something, don't just rush and make the image. Observe the things, what's happening, and then rush when the things are actually happening. But of course, the challenge is here that we might not know what's happening. We can't predict, and that's also the beauty of street photography, that we don't control the situation. Everything is very unpredictable that happens on the streets. And then we have to react quickly. Next one is the gear and technique over story. And this is something that I'm very sad about, is the obsession of gear that people have. And if you're concentrating and thinking about, do I have a camera that is good enough? Is my lens good enough for this? I can tell you it is. It's more about making the image in your head and with your creativity, and then just use the camera and the lens as a tool, not as the most important thing. Of course, you need some kind of camera to make the image, but it's just a tool. The biggest thing that happens or makes your images great and have soul is your creativity, your feeling, your emotions, your state of mind when you're making the photographs. Get your mind out of your gear and learn how to use it properly and use everything, intuitively in your camera, and then just fire away. And if, putting it on a P mode and everything is on automatic, don't worry, just fire away and make those images. Don't worry about the bokeh. Don't worry about the sharpness. Don't worry about the noise. No, don't worry about any technical quality of the image. When you're making streets, of course, if you're making something else, it might be important. And then just fire away and make images that have soul and feeling. That's the fix for that. Take your ideas and your feelings away from the camera and shift it towards the photograph that you're making. The moment. Be in the moment and forget about the gear. The biggest thing that is hurting the craft of street photography and many other genres is the absence of personal perspective. You have to have some kind of a personal perspective. You have to let your feelings show. You have to let your emotions come into the photographs. If you're feeling sad and you're going to out and photograph, let it show. It's nothing wrong to be sad. We have a little blue days when we're not feeling that good and might not be that inspired. Let that show. And of course, when we're happy, really good feelings, let that show in your photographs too. That is so much more important than what lens you're using. Nobody cares, but they do care about your feelings. That's what I think. Other way to fix this is to photograph something that you're really interested in, the way you like to photograph. That will motivate you a lot more than think about what others think about your photography. You're getting lost if you start thinking about that. I've said this many times and already said it in this video. It was the one whole chapter of this video. But it is so important, and it is one of the biggest fixes is to photograph the way you feel and photograph for yourself. Everything else will follow. Don't think about what others might think about your photographs. Just fire away and do what you like to do. That will absolutely lift up your photography. Here is a link to our workshop that we're having in Kuala Lumpur next spring. It's all about storytelling, and that video and the links in that video will tell you all about it. And the other video is about being invisible. That will make the ethical dilemma a lot easier when you're photographing on the street in the public spaces. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.